Here's another video for all of you, another video essay rather, that I just wrote, and I want to read it to you because I think it's important. It has to do with contradiction and whether or not we bear that contradiction internally or act it out externally as conflict. Because I believe you have to do one or the other. There is no middle ground here. So here we go. Stop for a moment and consider an absurdity. Everyone in the world thinks that their views are right, and yet no one agrees entirely with everyone else, or anyone else. So there must be just one person in the world who is right, or perhaps not even that, since an argument and its contradiction cannot both be true. Everyone in the world disagrees with everyone else in the world. How lucky the person who believes the right thing. They're 1 in 7 billion, and yet we each think we are that person. Something smells fishy here. Another way of saying this, look at a view, a vista, a landscape, and you see both a foreground and a background. You can see the background, yes, but you can also see the foreground. But you cannot see the background in the foreground, for then it would be no longer a background. There is an incommensurability here, a discrete difference, and a reconcilable gap in the continuity of what we see. For there are irreconcilable differences within each self-identical point of view. I cannot feel my arm in my belly button, cannot feel my belly button in my toe, but I can feel all three at the same time. I exist at all points in my body without reducing one to any other. I see the lower left spot in my field of vision and the upper right spot, and yet they are different from each other. I cannot see the right eye's point of view with my left eyes, and yet I see both. For if I were to feel my belly button in my toe, I would no longer feel my belly button. If I were to see the right eye's point of view with the left eyes, I would no longer see with the right eye at all. These discrepancies cannot be reduced. There is an inconsistency here, an inconsistency that lives within consistency. There is, so to speak, an outside and an inside in every view of the world. My eye can see my finger can feel my eye, like this. But the encounter is discretely different for both points of view. The finger from the outside is seen. The finger from the inside feels. The eye from the outside is felt. The eye from the inside sees. To view the outside from the inside is to view the world. To be viewed from the outside is to be viewed in the world, and yet the finger cannot touch the eye's view of it. The eye cannot see the finger's sensation of the eye. And just as the eye cannot see touch, just as the upper right corner of my field of vision cannot see the lower left corner, just as the background cannot lie in the foreground, I cannot view another's view of the world. Rather, insofar as I view the outside from the inside from which the other views the outside cannot come into my view, since it is not itself outside. I cannot see their view of the world, since their view of the world cannot be seen. But, and this is the crucial point, I can see with their view of the world. I can see their world as they see it. This is an odd experience, one not normally entertained or allowed, the ability to see things in both one way and another at once. Emanuel Swedenborg, 18th century scientist and mystical experiencer, reported that he experienced a doubling of thought in the middle of his spiritual awakening. I have experienced this as well, the ability to entertain two completely discrete trains of conscious thought at once, without mixing or confusing them, all in the same way that I don't mix or confuse my belly button with my hand. A dear friend I knew once was an expert at this, for she could do it with at least 5 different trains of conscious attention at once, and called it threading. She reported that deep levels of lucid dreaming even required it. Experiences of those who take psychedelics often include similar experiences, of having tens of thousands of fingers and of being able to control each one independently, of being told by cosmic, childlike, divine, immensely intelligent elves or gnomes that the main reason you can't understand them is because you can only think one thing at a time, and so on. Each thought is only seen from the inside, or rather it only sees from the inside and is not itself seen. The physicist David Bohm once said that the main problem of the human race was that thought is not proprioceptive. That is, thought feels what it thinks, but it does not feel that it is thinking. It can see itself from the inside, but it can't see itself from the outside. Thought has no awareness of itself in space. It doesn't know its edges. We just see what we see, like the eye of Sauron. We look to the environment. We scan everything, but we don't look in. We don't see our edges. What sees in us, we don't see it. We don't see that we can't see what sees. We don't give a limit to that. And so, speaking of psychedelics, there is one particularly relevant encounter that comes to mind that I found online. I'm just going to read it to you. Here it goes. At first, I saw frowning faces. I saw these when I looked to the right. It was a very symmetrical fractal image. Then I would look to the left and I could see smiling faces. And so everything was the opposite of the right side of my vision. The faces were good and they were bad. They looked at me and asked me to choose. They were two opposite images that met in the middle and merged. I knew that it wasn't just images. Something was showing me the duality of nature. It was like there were two true things and that both were the perfect opposite of each other. They said, the other is a lie. And they were both right. It was a paradox. I felt that I was supposed to try to discern which was true. Later on, I wondered if I was supposed to be able to accept that things were this way, that maybe nothing was true. I got stuck in the paradox and was infinitely looking left, right, that I wanted to return. I kind of screamed inside my head that I couldn't possibly know, and that I wanted to return to my room, to my space and time. I could vaguely hear my dog barking in the porch, so I knew I was alive still. But something, me, the universe, was like, look, back there and here are just the same. Things are just a lot more clear here. You have always been here. The other is just a representation of this. You will have to solve this puzzle someday. Things are reaching the end, and if you aren't careful with what you choose, you'll get stuck here, in this paradox. You asked to come here, so help me answer this question. It was like the universe itself didn't know what to make of the paradox, so it was asking me. It kept saying, do you see? Do you see why life is this way? Why it is the way it is? Do you see now why you can't know everything? Because it is unknowable. I was terrified because it felt familiar, like it was true that I had always been there, like maybe the life I'd been living was just my escape from that place. The other frightening part was that it, the universe, me, God, was pleading with me. It was flabbergasted that I still couldn't make a choice. It was like I ended the experiment too soon and wasn't ready yet, or maybe never would be. So that's the end right there. Here, the universe reveals itself as a solution to a divine problem. My life as a kind of computer. How can both accusations, the right, the left, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, both be right? God doesn't know, but we might be able to figure it out for him. Like in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, we are condemned to contradiction, to the game of yes and no, and we have to figure it out for him. And we cannot escape this game. And before I continue, there is a shocking parallel to the above trip in one of the endings to the psychedelic in its own way video game, The Stanley Parable. At a climactic moment, a transcendent figure, a narrator, tells you this in front of an on and off switch. Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see now? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. So here the parallel is clear, on and off. You must have both, and yet they contradict each other. The Stanley Parable is this game of yes and no. You must live and die, never getting anywhere, caught in an endless loop, drowning in what you cannot see since you are it. As such, this narrator figure then returns you to the point of death, the crushing machine, the point where you will die and restart the game over and over and over again, a kind of Sisyphus Groundhog Day, an endless samsara with no nirvana. And she says this: please listen to me. You can still save these two, on and off. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it will be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let... And then the game is cut off, since you're crushed. But then in that moment, unlike any other ending in the game, it doesn't just restart. It just is a black screen. So you're like, what's going on? What's going on? Is the game frozen? But then you press escape and, oh yes, I can press the escape button. The main menu pops up. I can see that, yes, I can turn it off, turn it on. I'm given a choice. I can see the nature of things. I can choose to leave because I see the game as a game. We are given the opportunity to save these two, save both on and off, combine them both into a single image, no longer destined to choose one at the cost of drowning in the other. And the solution is simple. We must exit the game. Push escape and press quit. The keyboard, there, right in front of you, the whole time, and leave it. See that it is, after all, just a game, like Magritte's pipe, that is, after all, just a pipe. Or, no, it's not a pipe, just a painting of one. The world becomes, as Wittgenstein once said, a limited whole. A world where you see it contextualized in an outside that does not belong to it, an outside that pervades it at every point, incommensurably, a perpetual other in the self. Yes and no. For this motion, this experience of unavoidable, ineradicable multiplicity of parallel thought processes, of threading, whatever, is the only thing that will save this world. We are in perpetual conflict, school shootings, wars, genocide, because the conflict is necessary, and because, most importantly, we cannot bear to work out the conflict in our souls instead of in our arms and our tongues. We, to save the world, must become contradictory creatures. We must bear the wave of strife that Rudolf Steiner once said threatened to overcome the world in our souls. We must inflict the scars that we inflict on others on and in ourselves. For scarring will happen, and there is no avoiding it. This scarring is contradiction, discrete difference, incommensurability. We must face it, or we will inflict it on others. There is no other choice, and we must make a choice. So there you go. Tell me what you think.